Welcome along. So the good news for Sir Keir Starmer is that he's finally found a head of border command. The bad news for Sir Keir Starmer is that the bloke he's picked has just told him that his plan to smash the gangs won't work. In fact, it's actually doomed to fail unless he introduces something like the Rwanda plan. But he scrapped that on day one. Martin Hewitt, who was the police officer in charge of enforcing the lockdown rules, presumably, look, hey, if he was comfortable keeping all of us shackled to metaphorical radiators inside our own homes for months on end, then he won't have a problem stopping people breaking into Britain. But it's better than the person Sir Keir originally wanted.
Are you alert to issues of racial and social justice? Yes, I am. And if that is the definition of woke, I'll wear it as a bumper sticker every day of the week.
Yeah, great, so at least it's not him. Anyway, Martin Hewitt has come out and said that he can't stop the boats or smash the gangs without an additional deterrent. And he's reportedly told the Prime Minister that his current plan to smash the gangs just simply won't work. In fact, when Sir Keir did this on day one...
The Rwanda scheme was dead and buried before it started. It's never been a deterrent. Everybody has worked out, particularly the gangs that run this, that the chance of ever going to Rwanda was so slim, less than 1%. That it was never a deterrent. The chances were of not going and not being processed and staying here, therefore, in paid-for accommodation for a very, very long time. It's had the complete opposite effect. And I'm not prepared to continue with gimmicks that don't act as a deterrent.
Well, it turns out that that was basically a human rights lawyer talking and not anyone from our security services, because Shadow Home Secretary James Cleverly has said the need for a deterrent to stop the people smugglers is obvious. We know it, the National Crime Agency knows it, and now we hear Labour's new border commander knows it. It's becoming increasingly clear that Labour's cancellation of our plan with no replacement won't cut it. Tough talk, but doing less isn't a plan, it's smoke and mirrors, and they are being found out. Well, fellow Tory leadership contender Robert Jenrick has also piled in, saying it sounds like Sir Keir's new borders chief has taken this job only to tell him that his plan to stop the boats won't work. That's why I warned Labour not to scrap the Rwanda deterrent, but strengthen it. It's now clear Sir Keir is utterly clueless and the boats are still coming. Unless Labour introduces a deterrent, we will still be in this position come the next election. I'm afraid to say the numbers speak for themselves. There's been 10,000 arrivals since Starmer took office. Every single one of them will now be able to claim asylum in a way that they simply could not before the last election. And the facts speak for themselves as well. He went to talk to Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni because he doesn't have a plan. He's probably going to replace Rwanda with Albania, but the left hate it, and he'll just run into the exact same issues with lawyers that the Tories do. Can I just say that was Diane Abbott's tweet there, calling Meloni a literal fascist, OK? Starmer doesn't have a plan. He never did, and I doubt he ever will. Well, let's get the thoughts of my panel now. The Director of the Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. We've got businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and we've got broadcaster Judita De Silva. Mark, I'll start with you. So finally, after however long it's been, we've got a new head of border command. That head of border command has just sat down Keir Starmer and said, Starmer, look, you need something like a deterrent, mate. To which Starmer now is going to go, well, sorry, I've just cancelled that.
It would be funny if it wasn't so serious, Patrick, right? And, you know, so is the Starmer master plan unravelling? No, it isn't, because he never had a master plan. The smash the gangs thing was always a soundbite. And I was stretching for an analogy here, but I think it's a bit like the sort of how would you tackle the war on drugs? And if people were worried about a drugs, epidemic, you can't just say smash the gangs, smash the gangs. And I'll tell you why it won't work. Because for every gang you round up and arrest, more people will come into their place limitlessly, an almost infinite supply, given the amount of money involved in people trafficking, given the percentage chance that you will successfully remain in the United Kingdom. This is a going concern as an illegitimate black market business forever. And if you smash one gang, another will rise up. It's cutting heads off the high. So until they have a deterrent, it was really interesting, the clip that you played. It seemed to be Starmer saying that the Rwanda plan wasn't a sufficient deterrent.
Yeah.
So I would be all ears if he said, well, that won't work because it's only 1% of people going there. Well, that's 1% better than 0%. Why doesn't he have a 10 or 15% plan? So the deterrent's got to come in. I'm glad Martin Hewitt said that. I hope the Labour government get on with it, but I'm not holding my breath.
All right. I mean, Adam, look, far from me to accuse the Prime Minister of being a liar, of course. But it does look as though he wasn't necessarily telling the truth when he did say he had a plan.
I'll call him a liar. He is a liar. We've had 10,000... illegal immigrants come across since Labour took power. There is no deterrent. At least with Rwanda, we had interviews from migrants that were saying they were scared to be deported there. We have got countries like Germany now implementing emergency border controls. Where do you think these people are now going to want to go to? The soft touch. That's the UK. We don't deport hardly anyone. So if there's a toss-up between an easy ride or another country that's going to face deportation, where are you going to go?
Yeah.
We've got black market jobs here that we don't really see in Europe either. They know they can come here and get cash-in-hand jobs.
Okay. All right.
It's too much of a...
Are we now, under Keir Starmer, is the only thing we've got that we are now massively out of step with mainland Europe? We are El Dorado.
No, I don't think so. I think he's mentioned what I believe would be the way forward, but hasn't followed through on it yet. You do have to have a multi-pronged attack from different directions. Smashing the gangs is one point, but also he alluded to earlier on, but hasn't followed through on, you've got to eliminate the motivation at the point of origin for migrants. But what I find is that a lot of politicians talk about immigration, but it is clear that they have a myopia when it comes to actually engaging with immigrants. If they spoke to them and understood the nature and the mentality of the people who do journeys, that by the time you've covered how harrowing those boat crossings are, that's the easiest part of their journey. Take someone coming from West Africa going to Italy. They've gone through Mali, Niger, they've gone through slavery, torture, imprisonment in Libya, gone to Tripoli, then made the journey to Naples. By the time they get to the boats, that horrific experience is the best part of their journey. If you talk to these people, what the government hasn't seen is that there's a very vital catchment area. Migrants who've made the journey had such a horrible time upon being here who want to go back. Okay. They don't have the money to go back, and they can't deal with the humiliation of failure. If you created a humanitarian enclave within charities that exist, that say those who want repatriation would get a job on the other side paid in international currency, they would be willing to go back, and what they would act as is an almost citizens advice bureau for immigrants who want to make the journey.
Okay. All right.
Because if you're saying, I've done the journey, it's not what it's cut out to be, they would receive that message.
Do you buy that?
It's interesting, and I completely agree about the multi-pronged approach. I don't think there is a silver bullet here. I'm still a bit worried that the magnet that is the UK, I mean, I'm sure you're right when you've mentioned, that in some ways the easiest part of the journey is Naples to Dover, not getting to Naples. I mean, I think we should be pretty strict that if you've come from a safe haven to the United Kingdom, and I would definitely include Italy and France in that, we're not going to entertain your application. You are already in a safe place. You haven't come direct from Afghanistan or Syria. And none of these rather clear, slightly black and white and blunt rules appear to be in place. And I think putting some of those in place, however binary, however blunt, would be the start of getting to grips with this.
But look, we've now got a new head of Border Command who is telling Keir Starmer, apparently, you do need some kind of deterrent, a little bit like the one that you had. Now, as far as I could tell, Keir Starmer's entire legal career, the letters that his own members of his own party previously signed and sent to Home Secretaries to get people who had committed crimes off deportation planes to stay in the UK, some of whom then went on to commit other heinous crimes. Starmer now calls it irregular migration, not illegal immigration, and he's very clever about the wording that he says when he talks about people coming across the channel. He says, no one should have to make that journey, he says, and things like... He's kind of... I just feel as though, Adam, do we not have a Prime Minister who's on the side of people coming across the channel, not on the side of people who want to stop it?
And they know he's weak. They was cheering the fact that Labour was getting in from across the channel in France. At the end of the day, if we carry on housing them, feeding them 3 times a day, healthcare, dentistry, free travel, of course they're going to come. I'm not attacking these illegal migrants, because at the end of the day, if I was in a country somewhere and I knew I could get to somewhere and get free stuff, I'm going to try it myself. I'm attacking the system. Multiple governments in the past in this country have let us down, and now we've got tens of thousands of unknown, unchecked, possibly dangerous men walking the street amongst our children. and there's nothing we can do about it. They're not going to deport them.
But Starmer doesn't really care, I put it to you, Judita, for reasons that we're going to go on and talk about later on in the show, which is that he's completely detached from the reality of the common man and woman, isn't he? Does he know a single thing about hardship? Whenever he faces hard times, he goes and knocks on a lord's door and gets some money from his wife, doesn't he?
I do feel that he has shown that he's a bit blinkered when it comes to understanding what the general conversation is for people who don't walk within his sphere of existence. But at the end of the day, that's pretty much most politicians. So if you're going to talk about who you put in power, you've got somebody who's well-versed in engaging with others to them, but isn't one of them. But as far as the actual migration thing, that's what I said, it's not, like you said, I agree, there isn't a silver bullet, but you have to be able to identify the delineation between types of migrants.
Sure.
There are a lot of migrants who come here because of the promise of the West. The key deterrence that nobody's actually talking about is you've got to destroy the image people have of what is possible in the West by talking about the realities of what it's like. The only solution you will get to migration in this country will come with the collaboration of Europe.
But the concern is the reality of what it's like is obviously very, very good, isn't it? For a lot of people, you get the hotel.
Certainly an improvement. I think the interesting thing here about whether Keir Starmer is tone deaf, and look, I'm not going to pick on him because he was a human rights lawyer or he's affluent. I mean, I basically respect the legal profession and I respect people who make money. But what the Labour Party is now completely missing is anyone who seems to have their ear to the ground to the British working class. And that's the party they were born of, the British working class. I don't think there's anyone around the cabinet table who has an immediate instinctive instinct for what British working class opinion is, and that ultimately will be the undoing of it.
We're going to get stuck into that at the top of the next hour, especially because it's absolutely unbelievable the amount of freebies that Keir Starmer's got, but also the ones that he's been offered again today. The fact he said he'll continue to take them, the pay rise for Sue Gray, Angela Rayner's been at it as well. It is non-stop Animal Farm type stuff, and it's happened in 70 odd days. I find it quite bizarre. But anyway,